Strong earnings and economic data extend Wall Street's winning streak. The Dow Jones and Nasdaq Composite notched their third straight week of gains after a key inflation gauge shows inflation cooling. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific opened higher. China's factory activity declines for the fourth consecutive month in July. The GIFT Nifty suggests a positive start for the Indian market. Oil records its fifth weekly gain on tightening supply and concerns over large rate hikes easing. Brent trades near $85 a barrel. Meanwhile, gold posts its worst week in 5 as strong economic data from the US weighs down safe haven demand. NTPC reports a mixed bag in the first quarter with muted revenue growth and a good expansion in margin. Marico, meanwhile, meets street expectations with a good operational show and positive management commentary. Auto major Maruti Suzuki is expected to report a strong set of first quarter earnings today. Other important earnings to track include GAIL, Power Grid and UPL. Good morning in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Sonal Bhutra. You're watching Power Breakfast. It's a Monday morning. We have a lot of cues to talk about, be it global or our own domestic cues as well. But first up, as always, let's take a look at the Asian markets. They're largely higher, and this is post the strong handover that we got from the Wall Street as well. However, China's factory activity contracted for a fourth consecutive month in July, while non-manufacturing activity slowed to its weakest this year. But if we look at the indices, Hang Seng is powering through. It's up around 2% as we speak, and Taiwanese index is up around 0.6% as well. And that's not it. Actually, we have Shanghai as well, which is higher in trade today. That's higher by 0.4%. Nikkei is higher in trade by 2%. So across the board, it is very bullish as far as cues from Asia is concerned. GIFT Nifty, that'll come up for you on the screen, and that one is indicating that the start for our own markets will be in the green. A 63-point bump up is what the GIFT Nifty is indicating after a slightly muted close on Friday's trading session. That's about the Asian markets. Let's talk about the US markets now. Wall Street ended Friday's trading session higher. The Dow Jones closed 176 points higher. The S&P added nearly 1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq outperformed, surging over 260 points. All three major indices also ended the week higher, marking a third straight week of gains. CNBC's Christina Parson-Nevlis gets us a wrap of all the action.
Markets rose on Friday as a closely watched measure of inflation came in at its lowest level in almost 2 years. The Dow rebounding today after snapping a 13-day winning streak on Thursday. The Dow finished up 177. The S&P 500 finishing its third winning week in a row, closed up 45, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq gaining 267. The latest measure of inflation data came in tamer than Wall Street expected. June's data for the Personal Consumption Expenditure Price Index continued to show easing inflation. The Federal Reserve will likely take this report into account when deciding about potential rate hikes for the rest of the year. Vietnam's VinFast started construction on its electric vehicle factory in North Carolina. According to the company, the 1,800-acre facility will produce up to 150,000 vehicles a year. VinFast received a $1.2 billion from North Carolina for the project, and operations are expected to start in 2025. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back to you in Mumbai.
Thank you so much for that update. Let's stay with the U.S. market. Let's listen to some commentary coming in from market experts.
Such a strong market. You hear the guidance from the firms that was so tentative, in the first and second quarter. A lot of it is so much more confidence. The internals are improving. It's broadening out. The ECI, that employment cost measure that Chairman Powell mentioned a couple days ago came in below expectations, as well as the others. Goldilocks, lower inflation and stronger economy and good guidance and good profits. What's to stop this market now?
We got great news on the inflation front, no doubt about that. We learned that with the CPI like a couple of weeks ago. We saw a confirmation of that in the PCE number. I think the Fed expected that number to be pretty weak as well on the PCE number. But we cannot take that as a signal of the future trend of inflation. And in particular, I think the Fed is going to be pretty concerned about the chance of inflation remaining as low, and when it sees that the labor market remains so hot, when it sees that consumption remains really, really strong, and it continuing to power the economy. So I think demand is still really strong. We've seen some slowing over time. We've seen some gradual moderation in the labor market, but I think the labor market imbalances are still there.
Okay, all right. That is some expert opinion coming in, and that's the global market action. But how will these overnight cues impact our own markets? We have a lot of earnings to track as well. We have our research team joining in to tell you just that. What is the trade setup looking like, the stocks that could be in news, and the action from the F&O space as well. Hey guys, a very good morning to all of you. Vivek, let me come to you. What is the market setup looking like today?
Well, good morning. It's the start of another week. We'll be ending, month of July, and hopefully, given the fact that we've actually seen a bit of profit booking this particular week, should start off on a slightly more positive note. Now, talking about how overnight cues were, U.S. market ended with gains. In fact, the Nasdaq ended almost 2% higher. However, what remains to be one key monitorable continues to remain the crude oil prices. Now, crude oil prices have now seen 5 straight weeks of gains, and this is something that we need to continue to track in terms of the kind of impact that it has. Now, talking about the Indian markets on Friday, broadly lower, financials among top laggards. Broader markets, however, managed to outperform the benchmark indices. IT stocks were among the key laggards. Both the Nifty TCS seeing a bit of profit booking and selling pressure at the higher levels. So, now talking about the markets, they snapped a 4-week gaining streak, and again, this is something that we need to see in terms of flows. Key cues to watch out for today: significant results coming in terms of Maruti, Power Grid, as well as UPL. Primary market activity too will be in focus. 2 key IPOs this particular week. SPFC Finance, almost over 1,000 crores the company is looking to raise from the primary market, as well as Concord Biotech, a 1,600 crore IPO that will hit the bourses this particular week.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Vivek. So, a lot of earnings which will be on our radar today. So, let's talk about some more stocks in focus. Surbhi has that list. Hey, Surbhi, good morning.
Good morning, Sonal. So, a lot of earnings that came over the weekend. Let me start with Marico first. The numbers were largely in line, but the management commentary was positive. Revenues came in at 2523 crores and EBITDA came in at 574 crores. NTPC, the revenues were muted. They were down about 2.3% on a year-on-year basis, but margins came in at 29% versus 24% same time last year. United Breweries, again a weak set of results. Revenues were down nearly 7% and margins were down 110 basis points. IDFC First Bank, the numbers were largely in line with estimates. The gross NPA and the net NPA were the lowest in 10 quarters. SBI Card, the asset quality has deteriorated on a sequential basis. The gross NPA has come at 2.41% and the net NPA at 0.89%. Apart from that, TCS will also be on our radar because TCS has announced a new operating structure, and this is the first organization restructure under the new CEO. There are some other result reactions like MCX, Chalet Hotels, Bank of India and Star Health, which may react to numbers today.
Okay, all right. So, that's a long list. Thank you for that, Surbhi. But a lot of action from the F&O space as well. Manglam is joining us with all the cues. Manglam?
Well, the last week wasn't, particularly great for bulls. We saw a fair amount of consolidation, and that was on the cards. But now, as we start this week, it'll be important to watch because on Friday itself, the important levels from which the market bounced back were extremely key. So Friday's low was 19,563. The 20-day moving average now, as we speak, 19,578. We closed above that as well. Similar was the case for Nifty Bank as well. It went almost 100 points below the 20-day moving average. From there on, it actually closed above that as well. So the second half of trade in Friday was extremely important, and that was also the day 1 of July series itself. The one trend which we need to monitor, nothing really to worry right now, is the way FIs are selling in the cash market. Second day running yesterday as well, or rather on Friday, they sold about 1,000 odd crores. That's a trend that we need to monitor. But at the same time, there was also some erosion of the Nifty futures premium. From 150 points, it went all the way down to 105 odd points, telling you that there was some selling in index futures by the FIs as well. They sold about 1,800 odd crores. They unwound about 12,000 long contracts and added close to around 7,000 short contracts as well. As a result of which, FII long exposure, which at the start of the series stood at around 59%, has come down to 54%, and the net longs of the FII are just around 13,800. Remember, at the peak last series, it was over a lakh as well. So that's moderated a tad, leaving the room open for a bit of an uptick, and that's what the Gift Nifty is suggesting. But that uptick may see a bit of resistance because we've seen double the call writing by the FIs than put writing. So 4 lakh calls written for about 2.2 lakh puts written. Where are those calls written? 19,600 call for a premium of almost 133 odd rupees. We have 19,750 call for a premium of 50 rupees as well. At the same time, put writers are active at 19,600, telling you that Friday's low would be an important support to watch out for. But on the way up, option writers are bracing for 19,750 to 19,800 as a bit of a resistance. In terms of stocks, watch out for India Bulls Housing Finance. On day one of the series itself, it's entered F&O band, so that's something we'll be keeping an eye out on.
Okay, all right. This is our Power Prep segment. Thank you guys for joining us and telling us what to expect from today's trading session. Time for a break now. When we return, NTPC and Marico will be in focus. They reported their first quarter earnings. We'll get you the analysis on the other side. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back, and it's time to do some earnings analysis now. The first one on our radar is NTPC, which reported a mixed set of first quarter earnings. Vivek is joining us with all the analysis. Vivek?
Well, good morning. Over the weekend, NTPC declared its results for Q1 and a slightly mixed performance. However, given the regulated nature of the business, the operational performance has been quite steady along expected lines. It's a slight miss against consensus as well as our poll. Looking at the numbers themselves, revenues were slightly muted given the fact that unseasonal rains actually impacted the demand this time around, and on the back of that, lower generation was witnessed impacting the revenues. Now, talking about the EBITDA was aided by both lower fuel costs as well as lower expenses. However, when you're talking about the average tariffs that the company witnessed, it was slightly muted down 1% on a year-on-year basis, coming in at 4.53 rupees per unit. Now, talking about the revenues, revenues were down 2.3%, slightly lower versus our poll. When you're talking about the EBITDA was up 16.5%. Higher against our poll. This was on the back of the fact that higher plant availability factor aided the EBITDA this time around. Margins expanded over 450 basis points and profitability too up almost 9% on a year-on-year basis. Consolidated capacity for NTPC stood at 72.37 gigawatts, up almost 3.25 gigawatts on a year-on-year basis. Coal availability factor, an important metric, up almost 230 basis points on a year-on-year basis. Talking about the plant load factor coming in at 77.4% versus 80.43% last year around, on the back of the fact that the unseasonal rains impacted demand this time around.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Vivek, for that take. Moving on, Marico reported an inline set of first quarter earnings. Manglam is back with us with the highlights. Manglam.
Well, Marico reported a largely in-line set of numbers in the first quarter, and that's mainly because the company had already given us the first quarter update, so the analysts were pegging their expectations as per that itself. What was positive, however, was the management commentary, where they do see volumes recover very soon and revenues to move into positive terrain in the second half of this year itself. But what also needs to be known is that the last two trading sessions before the company reported their numbers, the stock was higher by almost 6% odd. So that's something that we need to monitor closely itself, how much of that is in the price. So let's tell you about the numbers itself. 23 crores on the top line. The street was working with a number of 2,500 odd crores. The EBITDA actually came in at 574 crores. The street was working with a number of 580. And as a result of which, the net profit 536 crores versus 436 crores versus 416 crores. Domestic volumes at around 3% as well. The mild beat that you see on the profit after tax, that was largely because of higher other income that has come in. And operationally as well, the gross margins expanded by 550 basis points. The company reinvested some of that back into advertising, as a result of which we saw the EBITDA margins expand by 220 basis points. Let's talk about the management commentary then. They said that they will resume improving trajectory in volume growth in the near term. They will see margins of almost 150 basis points improvement, close to 20% operating margins for this year itself. And at the same time, international business will continue its double-digit growth. So those are a couple of things that were rather positive. Let's see where the stock goes today.
Okay, we'll be tracking these two names. Thank you, Manglam, for that analysis. In fact, we'll be speaking to the management of Marico at 12:05 today for a better understanding on how the first quarter turned out for the company and the outlook going ahead. Stay tuned for that conversation. Well, let's slip into another break. When we come back, we'll get you all the cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back. It's time to get a quick check on the commodity markets. Oil has recorded its fifth weekly gain on tightening supply and concerns over large rate hikes easing. Meanwhile, gold has posted its worst week in 5 as strong economic data from the US weighs down safe haven demand. So yes, a lot happening in the commodity markets as well. Important to track crude oil prices because they have shot above that $85 a barrel mark. But that's not it. Tomato prices, they continue to bite. In Tamil Nadu, prices have soared to 200 rupees per kilogram and expected to reach new levels as heavy rainfall has hit supply in South India. This is a steep surge from 150 rupees per kilogram last week and a double whammy for farmers and traders who were earlier grappling with tight supply due to the delay in monsoon. According to reports, the prices of tomatoes are likely to escalate further in the likelihood of heavy showers in Tamil Nadu. Okay, that is also an important story that we'll keep tracking for you. But quickly, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are doing. They are largely higher. Actually, most of them are higher in trade today. The Nikkei is higher by 2%. Hang Seng has also extended its gains. That one too is higher in trade by 2%. Taiwanese index up 0.4%. And Shanghai is one that we'll be tracking as well because the factory data in China has continued to disappoint for the fourth consecutive month. But for now, it is trading in the green. Let's see whether that continues or not. GIFT Nifty, that will come up for you on the screen. That one is indicating that the start for our own markets will be in the green. It has come off slightly, 7 points from the earlier levels that we spoke about. But yes, looks like it could be a positive day. Whether that sustains or not is something that we'll tracking for you. Well, with that, we'll take your leave on this edition of Power Breakfast. Stay tuned. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.